In focus tonight, the COVID-19 alcohol mandate on bars. This morning, a group of local business owners filed a lawsuit against Governor Herbert and the interim director for the Utah Department of Health. This comes after the governor's office issued an extension to its current public health order Tuesday, which includes the mandate that stops the sale of alcoholic drinks after 10 p.m. Here's ABC4's Nicole Newman's report from earlier this week.
Is a blatant disrespect to our community as a whole to sit in an office and not communicate, to hide behind a piece of paper and a person of contact. Governor Herbert said it himself in his November 8th press release. He said individuals who are out after 10 p.m. socializing in an establishment that sells alcohol will tend to have less inhibition on social distancing. I call bull.
This is the initial language in State Public Health Order 2020-21 that Micheal Rupp of the Sun Trapp in Salt Lake City is referring to.
In a 3-mile radius, there's probably 500 hospitality workers that right now, this very moment, are contemplating what their next move is.
Today, that order was extended until December 17th. It prohibits all bars and restaurants in a high transmission area like Salt Lake County to sell alcohol after 10 p.m.
Devastating. Not only for small business economics, but for our staff.
It comes about a week after more than 20 bars and restaurants sent a letter to the governor asking him to end the order. In a statement sent to ABC4, Kirk Bengtson, the owner of Twist Bar and Bistro, says in part, "As soon as my attorneys finish getting all of the additional bars and restaurants information that just joined us, the lawsuit will be filed. So sad it has come to this." Owners say they're also saddened the governor isn't answering their calls to offer pandemic relief assistance to their employees.
There's an abundance of money that was sent to Utah for situations like this, and he is neglectful in dispersing that money.
That was ABC4's Nicole Newman reporting. Coming up, we'll continue our In Focus topic tonight, catching up with one of the local business owners who's joined today's lawsuit. But then we'll hear from a bar manager and server on how the mandate is impacting workers in the hospitality industry.
2 weeks ago, I had 5 team members come to either me or one of my managers in terror saying, "I have a choice right now, Kirk. I can either provide Thanksgiving dinner for my kids and my family, or I can pay rent."
That was Kirk Bengtson, the owner of Twist Bar and Bistro, back in November, talking about the struggles his employees are facing due to the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. There are many workers in the hospitality industry that are struggling right now due to the pandemic. But many bar and restaurant workers are hit even harder by the state's mandate that stops the sale of alcoholic beverages after 10 p.m. Joining us now is Beth Kent, a server and manager at the Green Pig Pub. Beth, thanks so much for being here tonight to be part of our conversation.
Thank you.
Now, Beth, let's start with your personal impact. Why is that 10 p.m. cutoff time such a big hit on you?
Well, I mean, people come out after 10. They come out to, even after that, to drink and spend time with people and friends. What's hit, hard for us is that people are now going to grocery stores or to gas stations to buy their alcohol, and then going to somewhere that's not a controlled environment that we can provide at our local bars.
Do you have any idea, this is a follow-up question, do you have any idea maybe what percentage of your sales come during that 10 p.m. time period, or like how significant is that? Can you kind of give us an idea?
Yeah, so usually after 10 is where we make our money as being a server or a bartender. We're making at least 60%, if not more, is coming from that time. I would say that's where we make all of our money. That's where why we are in the business we are in.
That makes so much sense, especially because a lot of restaurants in Utah also close, right, around 9 or 10. Mm-hmm. So if people still want to go out, they still want to have a good time, they're coming to bars around that time. Yep. Let's talk about wage. Tell me about the wage that you receive and why tips are so important.
So a server makes, I believe it's $2.13 an hour. So the tips is what we need. That's how we pay our bills. And then having to pay taxes on top of that. So when people don't come out, then that's where we're hurting. That's where we're having to get a second or third job to make sure that ends meet for our families, for our household. We have rent to pay, food to buy ourselves. So to we need that.
Right.
That's how we pay everything.
Yeah, it's not just about the hours worked. It's about the number of tables that you serve and the people that come in. Now, you had a full-time job and served on the side, but then I heard that you changed careers to work in the restaurant and bar industry because you actually made more money. Tell me a little bit about that, and is that common in this business?
Yeah, actually, you know, I had a 9-to-5 job with COVID. I was working from home, but it wasn't for me. It's something that didn't make me happy. And then, you know, so I decided to go full-time at the Green Pig. I made the same amount, if not more, by working there. And a lot of people, actually a few of my colleagues, they've gone to college, they have degrees, but with just how it is, I mean, we make, you know, pretty good money working there. So that's why people choose to do it. And you get a social life with it. You get to meet new people. You get to conversate with people. You have fun, and we have a great work family, and that's another huge reason why I like doing it. I'm around other people and not just sitting in front of a computer at home.
Now, would allowing alcohol to be served after 10 o'clock again bring you back to normal?
I believe so in some instances. You know, again, having people come out to just, you know, hang out with their friends and stuff, that's what people want to do. And if they're not doing it in a bar with us, they're doing it at a friend's house or somewhere where it's not being controlled, things that we do. Stopping, you know, from being open from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., it doesn't mean that that we stop doing our job after that. So I think it's really important that it's something that we need to get back to. It would be beneficial for not just the bar industry, but for people outside of that, you know, hanging out together, not wearing masks, not having to follow the rules.
Now, this industry, of course, has been hit particularly hard by the pandemic. What other things, in your opinion, could the state do to help people in the service industry during this tough time?
Lifting the mandate for sure. And then on top of that, I mean, there's, like everybody's been talking about, money that the state has that could help us as employees and people who are working in this industry to keep us from where we're not having to work 3 different jobs to make ends meet. You know, if there's any kind of funds that would help, I mean, that would be great because, you know, talking about how Utah is a, you know, pro-business state, it would be nice to see that happen, you know, and not just for certain types of businesses. It should be for everybody.
All right, you've been hearing from Beth Kent, a server and manager at the Green Pig Pub. Beth, thank you so much for being here tonight, and we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Is a blatant disrespect to our community as a whole to sit in an office and not communicate, to hide behind a piece of paper and a person of contact. We're empathetic that he is overwhelmed and things are just as stressful for him, but he's also guaranteed a paycheck, where the hospitality industry is no longer.
That was Micheal Rupp from the Sun Trapp Bar on Tuesday, talking about a letter he and dozens of other bars sent to Governor Herbert asking to rescind the COVID-19 alcohol mandate. After receiving the letter, the governor's office extended the mandate to December 17th. Thanks for staying with us for our second In Focus discussion tonight. Joining us now live in studio is Micheal Rupp from the Sun Trapp Bar to talk about the lawsuit filed against the governor's office and the Utah Department of Health. Micheal, I wish it was under better circumstances, but thank you for joining us tonight.
Of course.
Now talk about the genesis of the lawsuit. Help us understand it.
So the whole origin of this lawsuit is to facilitate the understanding that any bartender, any bar, server, restaurant server, hospitality worker right now is absolutely suffering beyond belief in a very unnecessary way. There's no scientific data that says that COVID is an increased curve after 10 p.m. in an alcohol establishment. How is it that the curve could increase at 10 p.m. but not be increased at noon while having a glass of wine for lunch? It becomes very problematic when you want to do your standard of business, and that's where this whole lawsuit came from. He stopped our standard of business on a license that we procured from the state agencies that were required and has roadblocked us from doing that. So That's what the lawsuit is for. It's to lift the mandate, it's to recoup costs, it's to help our staff stay warm and car payments and rent, and to be able to facilitate their daily lives without having to stress the state entities that are already overwhelmed from individuals who are unable to maintain full-time employment right now. He's further attacked an industry that is already down and out on their luck. There's not much more to do for the hospitality industry.
Now give us an inside look into your establishment. What have you guys been doing to ensure that the bar is safe for patrons?
So we start our day off 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. I am personally there scrubbing every chair, every table, every wall surface with sudsy water, soap water, mixed with some disinfectant. And then we go back and we do an electrostatic portion of sanitation as well from the ceiling down in our business. This is an everyday process. You can go onto Facebook, you can watch us do it every single morning. We thought it was important that the community at large see what bars are actually doing to facilitate the safety of our patrons and our staff as a whole. Hearing that, some people believe that bars are the absolute component as to why we have an increased number right now, and that is not the case. It is actually the lack of being able to socialize in a bar with a group of well-known friends whom you trust and have been around for the duration of COVID. Governor Herbert took the componency of a structured, facilitated, and formulated environment and took it away and gave it to a gas station to handle the safety of COVID and public safety. So it's a ridiculous situation. The mandate is blatantly a targeted thing on bars and restaurants that serve alcohol. We're just not sure why at this point in the game.
Now, we know that there's about a dozen local business owners that are part of this lawsuit, but do you know how many bars, maybe in totality or generally in the state, are impacted, are in danger of closing down? How many workers, how many people are we talking about here that are impacted?
Thousands of people in the hospitality industry as a whole. If you were just to scope downtown Salt Lake within let's just say a mile radius from Temple Square, we'll just go that route. If you drew a mile circle around Temple Square, you're probably talking about several hundred bartenders, servers, banquet servers, people who serve alcohol in hotel bars. The impact that this mandate has done and the damage is irreparable. You can't fix it. These people have lost their homes. We have had individuals in our community attempt suicide. There's a mental health componentry at this point. People are losing their livelihoods and their identities by being forced not to be able to work in their environment and socialize with their regular patrons, to be around their coworkers whom they know are safe. He literally has detached some individuals who are already detached from their birth families. They have now taken and detached them from their chosen families as well, isolating them and putting them into a box that says, you guys aren't the right people to help us stop this. He literally has just defined us as a whole in the hospitality industry as being unwilling or not willing to participate. And that's not the case. Most of us are all doing so much more than what is even asked on a state level.
Now, Michael, we have about 30 seconds left.
Perfect.
I want to give you the last word. What's your final message, or what do you want the community to know?
It is paramount, even if he does not lift this mandate, it is paramount that you come out and you support your local bars, you support your local bartenders. These individuals have homes, children, families, people at risk. They need to make this money and they need to be able to survive as well. We are not guaranteed paychecks in the hospitality industry. We live and we support, we do nonprofit works based on what we are able to do within our businesses. And it is paramount. We are doing the job. We are keeping everyone safe. We have had no contact tracing to any bar that we're aware of in Salt Lake County. So I would hope that this lawsuit actually produces the outcome we're hoping for.
Yeah, you've been hearing from Micheal Rupp from the Sun Trapp Bar. Michael, I know it's hard, but thank you so much for being here tonight and just shedding light on this issue.
Of course, Rosie, thank you for having us.
I would just say to the governor and to our governor-elect, our current lieutenant governor, all the members of the legislature, I'm going to tell them something they already know, which is that these businesses are the backbone of Utah's economy.
That was Derek Miller, president of the Salt Lake Chamber, talking about releasing some of the remaining $200 million in pandemic relief funds to help struggling businesses. Thanks for staying with us for our third and final In Focus discussion tonight. The Salt Lake Chamber sent its own letter to the governor requesting the release of the money last week. Joining us now via Zoom is attorney Janelle Bauer, who is representing the bars in the lawsuit against the governor's office. Janelle, thanks for coming on our show tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Now let's talk about the lawsuit from your legal standpoint. What do you see as the reason that restaurants and bars needed to file the lawsuit?
We believe that this restriction is targeting them unfairly and unnecessarily. There's been no evidence provided that providing alcohol services after 10 p.m. does anything to help the spread of COVID. In fact, there's no evidence whatsoever that it does anything with COVID. The restaurants and bars are abiding by all of the other health ordinances that are applicable to them, all of the CDC guidelines, and this regulation, and only this specific regulation, is what is really hurting them economically.
Now, what is the lawsuit asking for, and what do you and the plaintiffs hope it accomplishes?
We're asking for the 10 p.m. Alcohol service curfew to be rescinded. That's the only regulation. All of the bars and restaurants that I'm representing are in full compliance with all of the rest of the regulations, and they all feel that those regulations are reasonable, and they will do so to keep their patrons and their staff safe. But you cannot cut off alcohol sales at 10 p.m. and expect them to be okay with losing that additional 3 hours of business revenue, especially when their patrons and their numbers are already down.
Okay, so just to clarify for everyone at home, this lawsuit does not ask for monetary compensation.
We are not asking for monetary compensation. We're asking for the ability to survive, to have these bars and restaurants survive another month, another couple weeks even. Is they can't do that right now.
Now, you represent about a dozen plaintiffs, local bar owners. Talk about this 10 p.m. curfew and what you're seeing kind of on a more general basis. Why is this so debilitating? And have you seen any other industry that's been impacted by this mandate, such as the bar industry?
I haven't. There's no time restrictions on any other industry in Utah. There's no restriction on gyms or bowling alleys or sporting events that if they're out past a certain time of day, they can no longer do what they're there to do. And it just seems very arbitrary to us and not necessary to stop the spread of this disease.
Now, we've heard time and time again from our state leaders that due to the pandemic, they're trying to find a balance between public health and the economy. Where do you think that balance lies?
Well, that balance lies in the restrictions they placed on bars and restaurants all summer. They were allowed to operate from May 1st until November 8th with no restrictions on the time of day that they served alcohol. And during that time, there weren't huge outbreaks from any bars that we are aware of. And they were able to try to recover from the closure they experienced earlier this year. But now they're back and they're getting hurt again from basically what effectively closes many of these bars. There are bars in Utah that don't open till 9 p.m., which makes it completely uneconomical for them to open for 1 hour a night. There are bars that cannot do happy hours that have recently been fined by the DABC for trying to offer specials after work or at lunch. And, there's all of these onerous regulations on bars in Utah, and they can't even run specials to get people in. So how is the state of Utah expecting them to survive when you're taking away 3 hours of their operations, the 3 busiest hours for many of these?
Now, we've got about 1 minute left in the interview. I do want to get to this question. Have you walk us through this process? What's going to happen now that the lawsuit has been filed?
So we filed this morning. I believe it was served this afternoon, and we are going to request the court grant injunctive relief soon, within the next day or two, and see if we can get the restriction enjoined.
All right, you've been hearing from attorney Janelle Bauer. Janelle, thank you so much for joining us tonight and providing more of a clearer understanding on this issue as a whole.
Thanks for having me.
Now, we invited the governor's office to join us on the show tonight, but they said they don't comment on any ongoing or pending litigation. But they did say in a statement, quote, "We have great sympathy for eating establishments that are struggling to keep their doors open in these difficult times. But we have to balance that with the tough reality that coronavirus spreads easily in indoor locations where people are unmasked. We have tried to walk a fine line by allowing these businesses to remain open and requiring that certain distancing standards are met in order to make restaurants as safe as possible."